My name's Peter Doherty. I'm a professor at the University of Melbourne. I've also worked a lot in the United States and in the United Kingdom. And I'm a professional scientist. I work on immunity to infection, and I'm best known for work on a white blood cell called the killer T cell. And that's the cell, it's the hitman of the immune system. It bumps off cells that are infected with viruses and destroys the factories that produce new virus particles. And it's also now finding a lot of application in bumping off tumor cells. And so it's a very exciting area of scientific research, both in infectious disease and in cancer. I came into science from State High School in Queensland. I went to the University of Queensland and I studied to be a vet, where I got some very good grounding in disease studies, because that was a strong feature of the course. And then I became a scientist working on diseases of domestic animals, like cattle and pigs and sheep. And after that, I went to work for a little time in a medical research institute, hoping to learn some new techniques, and made a big discovery and stayed in medical science for the last 40 years of my career. That work we did in medical research ended up with the Nobel Prize, which is a pretty rare distinction, but you get it for making a big discovery, and I was lucky enough to make a real discovery. So what I have to say about science to people who are coming up to the later years of, say, high school and thinking about what they're going to do with their lives? Well, what I can say about science is what it's about is teaching you how to look at the thing itself. Science is all about examining nature as it actually is, not as we'd like it to be. And it's about describing that and writing it up and being part of this great enterprise of discovery. It's also partly about trying to find out how we deal with real problems, how we deal with disease, how we deal with climate change, how we deal with improving food production. There's all sorts of different areas of science where the basic of it is, of course, that we look for evidence and discoveries, and we make applications and new technologies and new approaches that result from those discoveries. So that's what scientists do. It's a kind of satisfying life to be a scientist, because you're always looking at new things, and basically it's probably the only time in my life I've ever actually said anything original is when I've made a discovery, because everything's been said before, but if you find out something new, it can be the first time anyone ever understood that anywhere on the planet, and that's really gratifying. So that's if people want to become professional scientists. But even if you're not thinking of being a scientist, and most people aren't going to be scientists, that's obvious. Some will go into areas where they apply science, like being a medical doctor or a veterinarian or a dentist or an engineer, but they may not actually do science. But it's also important for all of us to look at the world, at least to some extent, through eyes that are looking for real information, for real evidence. What is it really like? Because all of us are voters, and we all make a contribution to the political process in this country, and all of us need, I think, if we're going to have a good future, we need to think in terms of the reality of things, not necessarily the way people would like us to look at things, but how things actually are. And if we're going to insist that our politicians and so forth make good decisions, we need to hold them to the idea that reality is important, and we need to look at evidence about various issues. And that's what I would like everyone to think about as they're coming up through their schooling, is how it is we keep in our thinking an element that says, well, yes, they're saying that, but what's the real information behind it? And there's lots of places you can look now, online and all sorts of places. But I think learning some of the basic tools of science can help you do that. And that's why I'm so enthusiastic that everyone in high school knows at least something of science. Even if you're not going to be a scientist, you understand something of science, you understand something of how it works, and you understand something of how to go after really good information. Information that's real, not information that's being manufactured to make you think in a particular way. And I think that's one of the best things you can take out of school, is learning how to look at the thing itself, not being conned by various people pushing propaganda at you. So science is one way you can learn some of the techniques to do that, and they're important techniques for life. And so I think study a bit of science is good, take notice of what's happening around you, and of course have some fun. Thank you.